Hey, this is Chris Myers, Orlando Fly Casting Lessons. Are you trying to achieve longer distances but struggling to do so? Maybe it's because you have a one-size-fits-all fly casting stroke. I'm going to show you what that is and how you can easily get more distance on your fly cast. One of the most common issues I come across with working with people is having a one-size-fits-all stroke length. And by that I mean the amount that they move their hand is the same no matter how much line they're trying to cast, which means they can only add more and more and more power, which causes the rod to overbend, expands the loop, and actually makes the cast land far short of where it would if you took a different approach. The way I like to approach my fly cast is to think about throwing an object. Everybody here is throwing an object, and if we take that same approach with fly casting as we do with throwing something, and you start to try to repeat that motion coming forward, you're going to find that it's going to be much, much easier to achieve the distances you want. So if I was only making a little short throw, I only need to do this. Little longer throw, I'm going to do this. Little longer throw, I'm going to do this. My longest throw, I'm doing that. I'm never going to achieve a long distance throw starting with my hand here and trying to add a bunch of power in here, nor can I add a little wrist bend here and expect it to go without it bouncing off the ground in front of me. So we have to take a longer approach to our stroke of our tip of our rod in a straight line, and that starts with the hand going back and forth in a straight line. I only need to worry about, is my thumb going back and forth in a straight line? A thumb goes back and forth in a straight line, and then my rod tip's going to go in a straight line as well. And for a little bitty short cast, if we got our 3-weight in our trout stream, we only need to make a little bitty short straight line. Barely need to move our hand at all, because here's my straight line checker. I can move my thumb in a little short straight line without even moving my forearm or elbow at all. But if I need to start moving in a longer straight line, I can't hold my forearm still. Now my forearm's starting to move back and forth. And it's moving back and forth more and more. It's moving back and forth more. For a real long cast, it's moved a lot. My forearm was pointing out in front of me. Now it's pointing back behind me. But too many people's casts only go from here to here, and the forearm doesn't move except on the delivery when it slams down into the water and the fly line bounces off the water a few feet off the rod tip. So let's see what that looks like in option A, where we don't do anything except do it harder as I add more line, and see the shape of that loop. It's hitting the ground behind me, and if we're hitting the ground or water behind us, we're probably not allowing that line to get straight before we have to change directions, which means most of our forward stroke ends up getting wasted. Look at that one more time. Here's our cast. It works fine. As soon as I start to add line, I'm going to have to do it harder and more around in a circle, because I can't make that same, if I keep that same little shortcut, I'm going to get a crash tailing loop every single time. So if you're not familiar with tailing loops, you can check out my video on those tailing loops right here. But if I'm making a short straight line and adding more and more power, I'm overbending that rod tip, I'm going to get constant tailing loops. So most people quickly figure out, they just move it more and more in a curve. It opens up the loop, you quickly eliminate the tailing loop, but now you really have no loop at all. You're just flopping line back and forth. And I probably got that thing out 40 something feet. It wasn't going to be accurate. It landed in a pile at the end. But if we're just plopping it out in a lake and we don't really care where it lands, that's fine. And all of a sudden you want to come fishing for redfish, bonefish, tarpon, snook, sea trout, etc., you have to let that thing land right on their nose. This cast right here in a 2-mile-an-hour breeze gets destroyed and ends up right off the tip of your rod. So now let's look at how the stroke length can increase, and I want you to pay close attention to how far this rod's moving back and forth. So I'm going to hold it for a minute and not add any line. So here's our baseline. 1, 2, it's a straight line. We have a loop unrolling above the tip of the rod. Now I'm going to start adding line. So now my pause is going to have to increase. So my final stop coming forward was way out here. My final stop in the back was way back here. So I took a cast that started in here and it moved back and it moved back and it did the same in the front. So let's watch that one more time. And now, if you were watching the rod tip, watch my hand. If you were watching my hand, let's watch the rod tip so you can see what's happening as this line gets longer and longer. So we're going to start again with no line going out. Hand really doesn't have to move too much. Start adding a line. Longer and longer stroke. You never heard the rod start whooshing back and forth and making more and more noise because I didn't have to do it harder. So a simple experiment for this is if you just take 45, 50 feet of fly line, you lay it back here, you have a nice long stroke, you reach back behind you, make sure your line's straight, and in one stroke, it'll lay that all out. If we take that same amount of line, or bring our hand up here in front of us, where a lot of people's hand never crosses back behind their body, then we'll add some extra wrist bend here so we have almost a 45-degree angle. Now let's take that same and try to do it. I know I'm gonna have to do it hard to try. Well, that one didn't work. You can see how that fly is way up and around. Any amount of wind destroyed that, but let's watch how much I have to strip in before my fly starts moving. So this is all slack line that's in a pile out there. Hasn't moved yet, hasn't moved, now it moved. So I got almost half that line in before I ever started moving the fly. And that is what happens to our casts in the air. If my cast and my false cast looks like this, I'm gonna have very little tension, very little chance of shooting any line out because I'm not going back and forth in a straight line. Nobody takes a ball and when they want to throw it farther, they come more and more and more of a curve. Nobody. We reach back farther, farther, and we might even lean back farther, and you'll see quite often you'll see me actually leading back and forth. And what is that doing for me? That takes this cast, moves it back here in a straight line. So now it's on that same plane a few inches back. Same thing in the front. If I lean out to the front, it gets it out a little farther. I can't bring it down. I can't make the rod tip move farther in a curve. It's got to be on that straight line. So for your longest cast, you could even lean back into it. So now I'm starting from way back here, make a nice gentle cast, and it would have shot out a lot more line than that. So you have to be going on a longer and longer and longer straight line. So a way to start working on that is to take what you think is your normal cast, your best cast that you can do with a well-formed loop, whatever distance that is. Let's just say it's about 30 feet. You can get that to lay out. Well, then put yourself 40 feet out there and reach back a little farther and see if you can, in one stroke, put that 40 plus feet out there. If you can't, your stroke's probably not long enough and not in a straight line. Watching yourself on video is a great tool. If you watch yourself in slow motion, just about everybody's hand has slow-mo now, and you look, I like doing it on this side, so you should be able to see my hand come back behind my body here, especially on these longer casts. So now you're seeing my hand back here behind my body, out in front of my body, back behind my body, out in front. Look at yourself. I'm only casting not even 40 feet of fly line. I have a leader, so we're probably at 40 feet away where the fly would be. But just for that amount of line, look how far my hand moves. But most people's, when I look at them from the position of the camera and they're making that same cast, I don't see their hand. If I don't see their hand, but what I do see is now you can see how that tip is going down into the ground. Because if they're only moving their hand to here, they didn't even get 12 o'clock. They're having to finish with that big, huge sweep at the end. Watch yourself in slow-mo. See if you have that giant sweep down at the end, which is preventing you from making a longer stroke. So are you trying to throw a ball by reaching back here and then dropping your hand down here and coming up and around? Probably not going to be near as efficient as throwing in that straight line. So try to treat your fly casting as you're throwing an object in a straight line, a longer throw for a longer distance. I think you'll find you'll be able to get incredible distances with extremely little amount of effort if you're doing those two things. So if you're having other issues with your fly cast, you could check out my most common fly casting issues playlist. And if you're going to be in the Orlando area, be sure to come see me for a one-on-one fly casting tune-up.